What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only legend of winning, aka Low, and let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are in the middle of doing something that I would argue is borderline impossible, and that is rebuilding a franchise with no lottery picks and little to no assets. Over the past few years, the Brooklyn Nets have acquired a couple of young players here and there, drafted extremely well with some of their later picks, and swung big with a few trades and acquisitions in the offseason. And so far this year, it has really paid off. Not only are the Brooklyn Nets a playoff team and are exceeding all expectations, but within the last 2 months, they are easily one of the best teams record-wise in the NBA, and a huge reason for this is the development of all of their young players. Jared Allen has quickly become one of the better rim protectors in the NBA, and watching him challenge star athletes at the basket has slowly become one of my favorite pastimes. Also, when it comes to Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie, they are having career seasons, both of which have kind of bounced around the NBA, in and out of the D-League, and now they find themselves as very quality rotation pieces on a playoff team. But in today's video, it's not necessarily about those players, but more so about D'Angelo Russell and how much he has improved so far this season. D'Angelo Russell, as I just give a brief player bio on the player himself, is a 6'5" combo guard that was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers a few years ago, but eventually traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, entering the NBA, there was a huge question on what exactly D'Angelo Russell brought to the table, except for scoring, as that was something that many people just expected D'Angelo Russell to be a natural at. And for the most part, he has been a consistent scorer. However, his level of efficiency has definitely seen its peaks and valleys. And for the most part, that has probably been his biggest struggle so far in his career, but this year that is something that he has corrected. And so far this season, he's averaging roughly 19 points, 6.5 assists, nearly 4 rebounds on respectable shooting splits. And over the last 2 months, D'Angelo Russell has seen an improvement in his shooting efficiency, and if you want to be a little bit more specific and look at the last 14 games, which has roughly been the last month of basketball, not only has D'Angelo Russell consistently seen an improvement in his rate of efficiency, but now he's at a point where he is a consistent 23 to 24 point scorer, and we also have seen an increase in the number of assists that he's recorded and rebounds that he's been able to grab as well. Now, as a scoring guard, D'Angelo Russell obviously has certain flaws that you would expect. He's not that great of a defender, he's really streaky when it comes to shooting, and he's not really a pass first type of a point guard. However, this year, the growth that we've seen from D'Angelo Russell has been pretty impressive. And what makes it so impressive is not necessarily that D'Angelo Russell is putting up points, but it's the area in which he's shooting from and the rate of efficiency he's shooting these shots as well.
Russell lets it fly, bottom, got a three.
So in short, D'Angelo Russell kind of does what you would expect from any scoring point guard in today's NBA. He operates at the top of the key, waits for the screen to be set, and from there he has a various of options of how he wants to score the basketball or pass to an open shooter or possibly the man that's rolling to the basket. He's a lethal three-point shooter at the top of the key, in which he spends majority of his time shooting his three-pointers, virtually shooting no corner threes whatsoever, so you kind of get a depiction of the type of player that he is. And so when it comes to defending him, if you don't run over the screens and push him off the three-point line, he can consistently knock down that jumper. So for the most part, D'Angelo Russell is definitely what you would consider a new-aged point guard. But he does have an old-school twist to him, and that is his mid-range jumper. D'Angelo Russell has taken a page out of the book that basically nobody is reading in today's NBA. The mid-range jumper is something that D'Lo has consistently been feeding off of throughout the entire season, especially within the last month of basketball. Now, coming off of the screen, if D'Angelo Russell feels as if the defense is pressuring him off the three-point line, he's completely comfortable with accepting that. From there, he puts the initial defender on his hip and then allows them to just follow behind him until he gets to the area of the floor in which he feels comfortable with shooting, and more likely he gets an open jumper because this also stunts the big man who's supposed to be helping out on the pick and roll as well. Another way that D'Angelo Russell finds himself taking mid-range jumpers is off of a switch. When the big man is setting a screen, the initial defender on D'Angelo Russell switches on the big man, and then the big man that's supposed to be picking up D'Angelo Russell on the opposing team doesn't step up close enough to him, or at least they're believing that he's going to dive to the basket, and then from there he just accepts an open mid-range jumper. And then another way that D'Angelo Russell finds himself taking a mid-range jumper is through a floater, which is something that D'Angelo Russell converts at a ridiculous rate. In the last 2 weeks, it's well into the 60s and something that he used rather consistently against taller big men. Now, the reason why this is so interesting is not just because nobody really shoots mid-range jumpers anymore, but it's extremely interesting to watch defenses trying to adapt to D'Angelo Russell's game. It's almost like a cat and mouse game trying to figure out where exactly D'Lo wants to go, while also D'Lo is looking at the defense trying to figure out what they're going to do as well. Now, many people would make the argument that this is exactly what the defense wants to do: force D'Angelo Russell to attempt mid-range jumpers, which many of us are aware are the least efficient shots that you can take in the NBA. And throughout the entire season, D'Angelo Russell really hasn't been converting his mid-range jumpers at such a rate that would justify him attempting as many as he does. However, over the last 14 games, or the last month of basketball, D'Angelo Russell is shooting 49% in the mid-range area, and then even better, if he's able to get into the paint and excluding the restricted area, D'Angelo Russell is shooting 60% in that range, which thus prompts the very serious question that must be had about mid-range jumpers. Yes, like I stated before, statistically speaking, mid-range jumpers are the least efficient shot in the game. However, if you're able to convert them, and if the defense is giving you mid-range jumpers, you have a better chance of knocking down an open mid-range jumper rather than trying to probe yourself into the lane and hope that the referees call a foul on the big man. Also, I believe that many people just overlook the purpose of a mid-range jumper because it serves more than just the 2 points that's on the scoreboard. When you're able to consistently attempt and make mid-range jumpers, it forces the defense to play you completely different. And that's exactly what's going on with D'Angelo Russell over the last month of basketball. D'Angelo Russell is basically impossible to defend for the most part. If you try to fight over the screen and push him off the three-point line, he's just going to take a mid-range jumper. If you try to go under the screen or try to beat him to his mid-range shot, then he can easily just take the three-point jumper. And if you try to double him off of the screen, D'Angelo Russell has slowly become a better passer, so he can easily just dump it off to the rolling man or find the open corner three-pointer. Now, there are some drawbacks to this style of play. For one, D'Angelo Russell really lacks the athleticism to beat his defender to the area in which he wants to get to, which is a huge reason why he just settles for mid-range jumpers. Sometimes they're long mid-range jumpers and sometimes they're contested as well. This becomes an even bigger problem when the Brooklyn Nets match up with a team that has the ability and the willingness to switch on the pick and roll. And it becomes extremely obvious that D'Angelo Russell lacks the foot speed when he still can't beat certain defenders to the basket. Speaking of getting to the basket, unlike a lot of other point guards in the NBA, D'Angelo Russell almost never attacks the basket. I believe a huge reason for this is because D'Angelo Russell just doesn't get the proper calls, or he just doesn't know how to draw fouls the same way that other star caliber players are able to. But from time to time, it's extremely messy watching D'Angelo Russell try to attack the basket, pull off some type of Euro step believing that he's going to get fouled, and nothing really happens. But probably one of the biggest things I've noticed after watching a lot of games from D'Angelo Russell is that he has the ball in his hand for a very long time. Like, the amount of touches that he receives, how long he's able to dribble the ball is just ridiculous. Throughout the entire season, 30% of his shots come after he's dribbled the ball 3 to 6 times, and then another 30% of his shots come after he's dribbled the ball 7 times or more. And then if we were to look at this 14-game stretch where D'Angelo Russell's numbers have gone up, 29% of his shots have come after he's dribbled the ball 3 to 6 times, and 33% of his shots come after he's dribbled the ball 7 times or more. And what's even more eye-opening is that D'Angelo Russell legitimately does not operate off ball. Dom 2K, B Souls, and I could count on our hands how many corner three-pointers D'Angelo Russell has made throughout the entire season. And nearly 72% of D'Angelo Russell's made shots throughout the entire season are unassisted. That number goes up to 75% within the last 14 games. But to be honest, I am completely fine with this. D'Angelo Russell's at a stage of his career where he just consistently needs to make mistakes, have the ball in his hand as much as possible, and try to figure out how great of a player he could potentially be while playing this style of basketball. And with that being said, congratulations to D'Angelo Russell, because for the last 14 games, you have been a mid-range god and nobody really has been able to stop you whatsoever off of that pick and roll. Now, if you enjoy these type of videos, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe as well, notification bell, all of those fancy things that people always ask you all to do at the end of the videos. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.